Hello, everyone, and welcome to Living by the Law, the podcast discussing fictional worlds and how wondrous and ridiculous they are. My name is Matt, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jude and Guy. Living by the Law is not currently sponsored. If you'd wish to sponsor us, join a pirate crew, sail the high seas and amass a chest of treasure. Place your sponsor buffer and a map to your treasure in a glass bottle and throw it into the sea. We will hear you. We always do.
Ahoy! Grab your cutlass and get your salt bandana, laddie, for today we sail the spore seas of Lumar. We'll explore the magic, science, and structure of Blandon Sanderson's Tress of the Emerald Sea. This episode will contain minor spoilers for Tress of the Emerald Sea and other Cosmere-connected works.
I have gone through a lot of my youth deciding at some point that I wanted to be a software engineer. And that's great, but I think the entire reasoning at the beginning was software, make video game. And now we've gotten a little bit beyond that. And listen, I love software development, not a great area to be in right now, as I'm sure many are aware. What I have recently been doing with my job is working in a warehouse. And boys, there is a simple, delightful pleasure in the entirety of my job being come into warehouse, scan box, put box on shelf, day done. That's my job.
Yeah.
I think that there's a tangible sort of pleasure, you know, it like putting together a good sandwich and tactile things. Doing a job where you just move boxes. I think there's tactile joys that I love that I don't think I appreciate as much anymore.
That's fair.
I think at some level we are still animals.
Monkey.
And I think having a simple task that once complete, I think it is an ADHD thing as well. Once you have a simple task that very clear stats, so you do it. It's like when you get a rubric at school and you do that rubric and you get it done and it's simple.
You did the rubric?
And it can be done. Well, that's how you get good grades.
I read the rubric at the end.
Yeah, we know. I just think there is that brand. It's like it reminds me of. I think there was a study done that if you give someone less choices, they're actually happier.
I'd love to be oppressed.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic of like
I'll oppress you.
Freedom.
Put me on a leash, baby.
Holy fuck.
Woof, woof.
It's interesting. Obviously, it's not good. Authoritarian is not good, but it's like...
But it's satisfying, sexually.
It's interesting that people struggle with choices a lot of the time, and being told exactly what needs to be done and being a simple task is satisfying for the human brain.
The Matrix thing of like how many people would actually just take the... What's the pill that puts you back in the simulation?
Blue pill.
The blue pill.
How many people would actually just take the blue pill?
Oh, I'm so blue pilled.
Yeah.
Listen. Come take the red pill and you can eat slap forever, and also the aliens are gonna try and kill you, or otherwise you could just sit in a pod and dream of women.
Yep.
Do you think Neo would have gone if he knew about the slop?
The slop. Yeah. Listen, the slop is a critical factor.
It is.
But also you can immediately learn kung fu.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good bonus.
Yeah.
Learning kung fu is a pretty good bonus.
Well, speaking of not really kung fu, but like sci-fi.
So the opposite.
Today is
no sci-fi Matrix. We're good.
Matrix is sci-fi.
That's a fine pivot.
It is literally a sci-fi movie. However, we're not talking about sci-fi today. We're talking about...
What the fuck is going on?
We're talking about fantasy sci-fi, so still kind of.
Okay.
It's a little bit sci-fi. It's a little bit sciencey. It's a little bit fantasy. It's kind of somewhere in between. But whatever the case, it is set in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere.
Yes!
Just as we thought we were done. They drag us back in.
No. I am 710 pages through the 1,400 pages that is Stormlight Archives 5 Wind and Truth. I will probably do something about that after I finish it. Fuck me. However,
if you wish,
gladly.
A small episode that I've been wanting to do for a little while now. That's just a fun little one and done kind of dip, especially with our shorter format. It's one that I couldn't really do when we used to do our longer episodes because this just couldn't be a full 2-hour episode.
Yep.
But it'll be this nicely. And that is looking at one of the smaller worlds in Sanderson's ever-growing Cosmere. for anyone that does or doesn't know, whatever the case, a couple of years ago, during lockdown, when Sanderson went crazy and wrote like 20 books during lockdown, a bunch of those books he brought out as short stories set within the Cosmere, and they were short stories that he released as part of a Kickstarter, and then I think it ended up becoming, at the time, the most successful Kickstarter or some bullshit. It was crazy. It put out a lot of money, and then he used those to a lot of those short stories became really interesting because, I mean, they were fun novels, but he also used them, and because he got so much money out of the Kickstarter, he was able to do a whole bunch of really nice things with the release, like make it an exclusive on really small independent audiobook companies that would be monetary wise not a great investment for him, but really great for the small company, and not just like feeding into the Audible monopoly.
Yes.
I want you to. You just said it wasn't enough for a 2-hour episode. I want you to tap your phone, listener, and just check the time.
That timeline.
Check that time. Did he succeed or not? I'd be interested to see.
I know what I'll see. Because hey, maybe the script is an hour long. That doesn't mean we're going to let you make it an hour long.
Today we are looking at one such novel, and that is Tress of the Emerald Sea. This one is really, really fun, cute little story, as it is told. It is a story, but it is told as though you're reading it, and it's the typical like third-person perspective story that Sanderson's books tend to be, but it's written as if it were a story of someone in world telling you a bedtime story, in a sense. Like, you'll get things. One of my favourite lines in the book, when the narrator, Ahoy, the character that pops up in all the Cosmere things ever, he comes along and he's basically telling you the story as if you're sitting around a campfire with him, and he like throws in little things like, oh, and just like in your world, how you'll get, I don't know, birds like that. This world has nothing like that. That sort of thing. Like, he'll make little references here and there.
That thing you know from home.
They don't have that here.
Idiot.
Yeah.
I just started reading these books, and I remember the character Hoyd. He's shown up once so far.
Yep. You've seen him twice, actually. The second time.
I've seen
him twice.
Yes, you do.
What?
Princess voice kind of ride.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. He just pops up. He's a immortal character that just pops between all the worlds. It's a complicated thing. I'll talk about him another day once I finish this book, probably. But point being, it's a story that he's basically telling you a story that is this book.
Excellent.
That's really interesting. It's a very different way of writing to his other books, and it's really nice and refreshing. And also means that he gets to, because the character Hoyd is quite a like whimsical, happy-go-lucky, amusing character most of the time. It means that he can put fun little throwaways. I think my favourite line of the book was something to the effect of, and the new prince came into town, strapping, young, strong, with a jawline straight enough to make the other men wonder if they were.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice.
So just a lot of that sort. He can do that sort of shit because it's the vibe of someone telling you a story, you know? Anyway, really fun little book. Highly recommend it. Even if you aren't a big Sanderson fan, just read Tress. It's a beautiful little short story. Really, really nice tale.
I don't have my Sanderson book on the table. What the fuck?
It's alright. That's one of the other short stories as part of the year-long one, The Frugal Wizard's Guide.
Exactly. Frugal Wizard's Guide to Medieval England. Which
Yes.
weirdest fucking concept for a book ever. But
Yep, that one's not Cosmere. Anyway, reminder of Cosmere terms for those of you that haven't watched listened, whatever the fuck. Mistborn's episodes we've done, Warbreaker, Elantris, Stormlight, whatever the fuck. That is one whole big universe with all these different narratives and stories taking place on different planets. Within this world, we have different gods in this setting. These gods came from one being that got shattered into many. Those individual parts being traits or attributes, so such as preservation, the godly force of honor, the godly force of odium, all these different parts being gods in different planets that then have stories written around them. We also have a couple of terms, which I don't think I'll be using much this episode, but just as a reminder, investiture is referring to the magical juice of any of these worlds in this universe, and you may have a highly invested being another way of saying this person was really magical. They had a lot of the magic juice in them.
They got mana,
they got
baby.
that juice.
That's it. That's all we really need to know. And, you know, a lot of the other stuff is very standard. If you've ever played D&D or read anything D&D adjacent, you're probably familiar with terms like the spiritual realm. You can think of it like the same sort of thing.
Or you can check out our D&D Outer, Inner, and Outer 2 realm episodes. And if you want to hear more about investiture, you can check out some of the ones where we talk about hot shirtless men and rune carving and electricity magic and shit.
That's true.
And metal eating and dance magic. There's a lot. Bando Sando's a regular feature. God willing. Love him.
So,
Come on the
I'm
podcast,
going
please.
to throw a quote.
I'd love to have him on.
Matt, you can go.
Oh, yes.
On this
ready.
one?
I'm ready. Yeah. I'm glad we're back. I have been. I've been trying to read them. I'm trying to catch up. It's so much to read. There's so much to get done. But I have really been enjoying the first few Mistborn books. They were just as much hype as you put them out to be. Now that I've stalled enough, here we go.
You're ready.
What sort of voice should I go for, Jude?
Give us some direction.
Give us something sort of whimsical narrator.
Well, I don't think I gave proper attention to just how beautiful Tress's world is. It's gone, oh no. To me, it was a backwater planet drowning in the dross of the Aethers, which are more useful in other incarnations. Big words. And far easier to harvest on the moons themselves anyway. And yet, nowhere else in my travels have I witnessed anything like those spores. It's a good game, Spore. I love Spore.
I think I've seen a thing about this.
Very possibly.
Adam Savage? Mythbusters?
I think so.
What?
No, there's a genuine bit here.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
It's alright, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. So, the things key to this world, Matt just mentioned spores. This is a world of swashbuckling pirates and sailing, and also magical spores, which fill the world.
Like fungi? Like fungi?
Like mini dust-like spores.
Oh, okay.
But these spores are from something called the Aethers. This next quote is for Guy. Give us, technically where this one is from, give us someone that is sort of an agent in a secretive group that's bringing someone into the group and telling them some really exclusive information.
Cult or KGB?
More KGB than Cult.
Perfect. It's called an Aether, an ancient entity predating the creation of your world. Some can grow it, manipulate it.
Yes. And what is an Aether?
What is an Aether?
Well, it is a ancient variety of heavily invested entities or beings. They originate on a planet called Dartry, where there were 12 primal entities residing.
12?
12.
12
primal entities residing.
Never mind Mark Rober. Huh? Never mind Mark Rober, not Adam Savage.
I was going to say...
Mythbusters?
No.
So I do reference that.
YouTube Science Man. It's okay.
I do reference that later on.
Yeah, perfect.
Although these Aethers have since spread to other worlds, these 12 beings are sort of like a collective hive mind-like consciousness of just pure, raw, primal creation power.
Wow.
Yep. And they, seeking out into the far reaches of the universe, they bind to people who kind of act as their agents, sort of their spies, sort of their distant viewers, if you will. They're people called Aetherbound, and they are able to manifest the specific power of whichever Aether they've bound to. Many believe that the Aethers are the single oldest thing in the entire cosmere, so we really don't know a lot about them. The god that got shattered to make the other gods that we focus on, the Aethers predate that original god.
Really? Wow.
Supposedly.
It's his juice.
Yep. It's one of those things that we don't actually have written knowledge of. All we have is characters that are relatively smart and all-knowing characters say it's believed they outdate this. So we don't really know a lot about it, but that's kind of the point.
It's always concerning when the old wizard who knows everything goes, I think what it might be. It's like, whoa,
Yep.
you think?
Yep.
There's bloody alien pollen. I don't like it. I'm going to be allergic to this, I swear.
Oh yeah,
It's
just
like-
you wait.
I knew where I knew Aether from. I was like, where do I know Aether from? It's like that fucking Minecraft mod, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Aether.
Oh,
yeah.
isn't it also from fucking Thor?
Yeah, isn't it?
Isn't the Aether in Thor 2?
Ether.
Ether.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Yes, the Aether.
The Reality Stone in juice form.
So they are, to put it super simply, in their original primal form, just 12 raw powers with a collective consciousness, and the act of drawing upon the Aethers is just dragging raw power into being from the spiritual realm. These 12 Aethers have then spread out across the universe, and you get places like Tress's world, which we're going to dive into now, where these 12 Aethers take on a very unique form, and that gives us the spores. The spores are a thing unique to this setting. That's not the case in any other setting that the Aethers are present in. So we're going to dive into this setting. The Aethers, you don't necessarily need to know that much about them. It's just to give a bit of context. The world itself is the planet Lumar, and it is a planet with 12 moons, home to a unique strain of Aethers. 12 primal Aethers, 12 moons around this planet.
The
You get
moon's
the idea.
full of Aether.
The moon, there is one moon per Aether. Yeah, they're like rich with this stuff.
Ooh.
It is located in an unknown star system, considered, as said in the previous quote, a backwater of the cosmere. The planet is surrounded by these moons, each of them hanging in equidistant geostationary orbits, oppressively close to the surface. So you can just see constantly these massive 12 moons surrounding the planet.
Wow.
Well, I suppose you can't see all 12 of them from where you're standing, but you get the idea.
Maybe you can't.
Sorry, I
So
forget
they're
you
really
have.
big. They're really big. Oh,
Yeah, well, it's not that they're really big, it's
They're
just that they're
close.
really close.
How big are they?
I don't have a measurement now. I'm sorry.
Moon-sized.
Because like our moon, the one moon we have on Earth, is actually like really big for a moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The planet itself is not Earth size, it's a smaller planet.
Okay, so probably the
So
moons.
the moons are probably smaller as well.
And to have
but-
12 of them, they'd be interfering with each
Yeah,
other.
exactly.
They had to be small.
Moons and geostationary is crazy.
For a small planet, especially.
Yep, especially as they're like equidistant apart.
Yeah,
Like,
that's-
it's wild.
Unbelievably unlikely.
Each
Almost
day,
like God
as it
did
goes
it.
around, it is due to the fact that there's 12 moons crowded around this little planet. The sun creates a moon shadow moving around the planet as well, as it is constantly passing behind one of the 12 moons.
Sorry, equidistant like a belt or equidistant like spread across like...
Like a belt, is my understanding.
Okay,
So they're
interesting.
exactly equal apart.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. The tides would be crazy.
Well, I'm
here.
thinking there's some gravitational things that with erosion and stuff that would make the land masses like a weird sort of strip. Anyway.
Oh, just you wait.
Brandon's ahead of me.
Oh, yeah.
Brandon does do his research.
Brandon
doesn't he?
knows
I think
his
so. I
shit.
think technically they would be not in a straight belt. They'd be kind of like
Oh, yeah,
tessellate.
because we're talking about 3D.
Yeah.
The world works in 3D, guys.
Yeah. Each moon is home to one of the 12 Aethers. However, in this world, the Aethers are producing spores, which rain down on Lumar's surface in great perpetual spore falls, known as lunagries. As a result, the entire planet is covered by oceans of Aether spores. Ocean
Oceans?
is a word choice here, huh?
Wow.
We'll come back to that.
That's sick.
There are, of course, fully habited islands and civilizations, cities, towns, kingdoms, everything you'd expect in a fantasy setting. It just has large oceans between these land masses. So back to that. Far below the surface, the seafloor is full of thermal vents that pump out great amounts of air bubbles, which is complemented with further heat and gas from decomposition process of spores at the bottom. This leads to the spores fluidizing, which makes the oceans of spores behave akin to a liquid. The locals call this process the seethe. Fluidization is witchcraft. You two may rant about it better than me, but the gist is when you pass a gas or liquid or a mix through something granular, it takes on a fluid state. There's some really fucking sick videos of this online. Sando did a collab with Mark Rover, or as I put him in my script, a science dude on YouTube, when he released the book. And because it was the first of his secret projects he launched when he did the Kickstarter, and he did this really fun collab video, and yeah, it's wild. It just, you literally, like, the main video that he did, that Sanderson found, and he cited as, like, the video he was watching while writing the physics of this world, it's literally a hot tub filled with sand, and they blow like gas into it, and it turns into liquid. It's
Mark Rober
wild.
sand spa.
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's what this is.
God,
Liquefied
that's
sand.
so sick.
Yeah, so it's liquidized spores.
Oh, that's horrifying too.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yep. So the seethe allows people to sail ships across the spore ocean, thus giving the world its primary method of travel, trade, communication, etc. The seethe usually lasts for days at a time. However, it will commonly pause for various periods of time, known as stillings, leaving all ships sailing across it spore-locked until the seethe picks up again, because it turns back into a solid.
I see what they did there with seethe.
Yeah.
Because it would be like the sea, but they're also mad at it.
Yep.
It'd be really infuriating.
Yeah. I mean, it would also be so fucking scary.
Oh, yeah.
Just being like near that. Like you couldn't. Oh my god! Imagine
If you go down, you're gone.
No, but imagine stepping onto the sand and being like, "Oh, it's solid," and then stepping and just like,
Yep.
You're gone.
that's
that's
one
the thing.
of my top 10 least favorite possible deaths alongside drowning. The thing where people fall into like grain silos.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my
Horrifying
God,
shit.
yeah.
Horrifying
Holy
shit.
God,
shit.
yeah.
That stuff is terrifying.
So during these periods of calm, the ocean is solid enough to walk on, as you say, though one must exercise great care when doing so. We'll get to why. And not just because the seethe could restart at any time. Sometimes stillings last for literally 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes they last for a couple of hours. So as much as sometimes you may need to use the stilling to get from A to B, or to go between ships, or to run across 2 different islands that aren't too far apart, any of those things that may come up, it is also really fucking risky, because who knows when it's going to restart again.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Is there water on this world? Like normal water?
Yes.
So they have like rain.
They have rain.
They have lakes.
Oh yeah, they have rain.
Do they have normal oceans?
No.
Okay.
I believe they have some like lakes and stuff on the actual islands, but most of the surface is covered by the spore.
I assume the
oceans.
people still need to drink water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get into why that's a problem.
They could be aliens, dude.
No, you're 100% correct. It's just funny.
Owing to the moons being equal distance to one another, and each dropping a constant spore fall, each sea is of the same size with different spores, and roughly the same pentagonal shape. This functions geometrically as 12 pentagons that tessellate the sphere of the planet, and due to the shape of the seas in the planet, each sea would border 5 others. So if you imagine there's 12 seas, there's basically these very loose, obviously, pentagon shapes from where it's just been like falling down into constant rain.
Oh,
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fucked
And
up.
then as soon as it hits the surface and builds up, it liquefies. Well, fluidizes. The surface is uneven, as each sea is effectively a pile of sand, highest at the lunary and lower on the border between the oceans, where spores of the neighbouring seas do intermingle. However, the sheer size of the seas makes the incline relatively imperceptible unless you're at the extremely close to the peak where the lunary is happening, because ultimately it's just like such a big thing that, you know, you're looking at that. Perfect. So that's a bit about the ocean.
It's really like a soccer ball.
Yep. Ships on this sea tend to have reinforced bows in order to protect the ship from some of the thicker spores they might sail through. The seas are also not especially deep, most of them measuring only a few hundred yards at the very deepest points. There is an entire complex ecosystem of its own at the bottom. However, nothing is known about that yet. It is a matter of research by the dragon and his servants. Moving on.
The who?
The what?
The who?
The dragon and his servants. Moving on.
Motherfucker.
We're going to talk about the aethers and the spores.
I don't care if it's 100 meters. If you go like literally a person length underneath, you're never getting out.
Yep. Matt, can you read out this quote, please?
Yes. You can't swim through it, I assume.
Potentially in theory, but like, you know.
Like, I guess with your arms, it'd be probably struggling, but with anything else, it'd be pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's quote. Who's this again? Is this is this Hoyd again?
Yes, it would be Hoyd, yes.
Your moons are home to a group of voracious entities. You love giving me big words, don't you, Jude? Known as aethers. Though the true aethers on other worlds have a symbiosis with people, the ones on your moons have become
Insatiable.
Insatiable, aggressive, and fecund?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Guy laughed. Insatiable, aggressive, and fecund.
No, I just laughed because you were like, you give me all the long words, and I saw the end of the sentence going up and like, yeah, nice.
Yes,
Well,
you piece of shit.
you also said symbiosis. It was like, yeah, it's
Symbiosis.
not
It's all right,
Spider-Man
it's all right,
anymore,
it's all right.
baby.
We're not symbiotes.
it's Venom.
Venom.
So,
Venom's on the moon.
the aethers of this world, as said, come out in spores. These spores are very brightly coloured, usually giving off a brief glow, and are very fine, like fine grains of sand level fine. In some cases, it's almost like a little powder. The little soft glow is also really cool because this world has a lot of darkness, given that the sun has got 12 moons to penetrate.
That's true.
So you have to picture, not only are they these relatively dark oceans, they're also glowing really brightly from the ocean of liquidized spores.
You're also really fine, Jude.
Yep, I know, thank you. This strain of aether is also aggressively hungry for water. The slightest contact with it, or any liquid containing water, such as sweat or blood, will cause the aether spores to burst into their element, pulling pure investiture through from the spiritual plane. This presents
Holy shit.
immense danger to all living creatures on the planet, as inhaling even a single spore can cause an explosion of investiture inside a person's body,
Nice.
an event that is almost always deadly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Almost, you say.
The different spores have different effects.
Ah.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like those you know those things that look like there's those plants that look like corn dogs, but if you put them in your mouth they explode. You see
I know what you're talking about. I
Plant
think
corn
they're
dog.
called cattails, but
Yeah.
all I can think of is me want bite, me want plant corn dog delight.
Yeah.
Yeah, real.
That's so
Good song.
Good song. But yeah, so the 12 aethers, so none of them are on this planet anymore. They all went to other planets.
No, the 12 aethers are... The primal aethers themselves aren't here. They never
Yeah,
were.
so
This is just like a shadow of them across the universe.
But they started here.
No. This isn't their original planet was a different one.
So why is it like perfectly for like 12 moons, one...
Because God arranged it that way, and
But-
He put the
but this was
moons in
different
the
god.
sky.
If the 12 aethers were never here, which god looks after this planet then?
None. There is no
How
shard
is
on
it
this
12
world.
moons in perfect proximity?
Because the aethers are here, but they're not physically here.
So it's their home, but not their home?
It's not their home. Like, when
They
you're
clearly
dealing
all
with...
came here and set up a moon, or
Was
connected to a
this
moon.
planet created by intelligent design as far as we are aware?
The planet, no. The moon's kind of. It's
Cool.
less intelligent design and more primal design. Like, all 12 of them have an aspect of them that has taken up some form of sentience here,
Okay.
and that has shifted them, and that's the reason they're equal distance apart
Yeah.
from each other, because they're all vying for their own space, right? There's nothing necessarily intelligent behind the primal aethers. They're just a force, a sheer will. Yes, there is a single body somewhere on a lost planet, but the echoes of them around the universe are just like a force.
God's hand did not arrange the moons in the sky. It's just the fact that they kind of repel each other that means that they kind of...
Yeah.
But they
Does it-
themselves. Gravity would be they would go towards each other, not repel each other.
Well,
I
this
guess.
is a different thing. It's not
fair.
gravity.
Magnets
It's
are-
it's single pole
yeah.
magnetism.
Oh,
yeah.
that's fair. Interesting. I just like. I think it's a really cool planet.
It is, yeah,
I was
it's
trying to
such a
think
cool
who
planet.
made it. Like, you know?
Yep.
made it
But no,
that
it is
way?
one of the planets that has no shards on it.
Interesting. Very fascinating.
Yes. The other thing with this, and like that's another reason why you have to be incredibly careful when you are going for a walk out on the stilling, because if you're walking along and you kick up some spores, if you inhale any of them or they get into your body somehow, they're going to react with your blood, saliva, or sweat, or just moisture on your skin, and you could be in a lot of trouble.
This deal keeps getting worse all the time.
Yeah,
You
there
say an explosion of investiture. Are we to assume currently that that is just magic?
We'll get to what it is.
Cool.
Yes.
Something magical happens.
Okay.
Nuclear magic.
We'll get to
Big
it.
bomb.
Big bombs.
So
We'll
big.
get to it.
bombs like this before.
The N-word. Investiture.
What?
Have you seen that quote where he goes the N-word nuclear?
Yep.
You seen that? You haven't seen that?
I have.
I just find it funny. He went the N-word investiture.
Investiture.
There is one other thing. that is good to know about these before we move on. Silver and salt both kill the spores on contact.
Okay.
However, so this is something that the
interesting.
people of Lumar have to exploit to stay safe, and also means that salt and silver are prized commodities on this world. Even like everything from the ship's railings around the top of the ships are like lined with silver. People will like cover their doorways in salt, all of that kind of thing.
That's so interesting because, like, in the other Mistborn world, silver is fucking useless.
Yep.
Because it does nothing.
Random, not necessarily a thing that you might know, but is the use, like, silver or salt reactive? As in, if I dropped a 1 gram block of silver into it, would it just tunnel straight to the bottom of the ocean, or does it just like dissolve as it hits the spores?
My understanding is it would just go straight through, dissolving as it goes.
Salt's
There's
the
like
same.
a layer of salt at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, I mean,
That actually, hey,
it could be how they decompose down
Yeah.
there. Who fucking knows?
hey, I know what I know what dangerous business I'm going to use underprivileged people to exploit. I'm going to
Yeah.
send them into the ocean to go find that salt and
mining.
silver, baby.
Yeah.
I like how these spores are like fucking like ghost or werewolves or vampires.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of salt and silver.
Yeah. Well, it's a thing that we. I wasn't going to touch on it too much, but it is a thing that we see when we see the aethers used by other characters in different novels that use the aether power. We do also see silver and salt repel or otherwise shut down their powers as well. So it must just be something to do with the primal entities.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like I say,
I
it
think
is one of
everyone-
those things. There's not a lot of answers I can give you on the primal entities. As far as things go currently, they just are in the world. We don't. Yeah, like we just don't know a lot about them yet. I imagine we will learn more because they're kind of one of those things that we keep getting little hints of in new novels. But
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about salt, but they're silver, not like none of the not being used in any elemancy or ferromancy, and then like no one like fucking silver. It's interesting to see that's like opposite of the divine investiture.
yep,
Yeah,
really
because it would
interesting.
be the only thing that's enjoyable to ingest. I'd be choking on salt, baby, if it gave me any sort of vaguely useful power.
oh yeah.
But like so, so the aether and the slithers had a similar power because they're both investiture. I just want to make sure they're not a different power.
The aether and the spores.
The aether and the
Investiture?
like ferromancy, elemancy,
I mean, they're not.
spores. Because they both have they also give explosion of vestige. They both give investiture, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to do with like growing strength or like
No,
pulling
no,
metal
nothing
through
about.
you.
But they are like both investiture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, investiture in its raw, pure form is just power,
Energy.
energy.
Okay, cool.
In something like Allomancy, if we go back to our Mistborn episode, when you use Allomancy, investiture isn't powering you to pull metal to you, it's giving you raw power, tapping into a well of raw power, which you then use to access a unique power that you have in your blood.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or like if you're using the Aeon Door in the Elantris setting, to reference another Cosmo episode, they're drawing runes. Let's say they draw a rune of fire, they're then accessing the raw power of investiture, which is then being turned into fire at the point that it hits their rune.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in the same way here, they're pulling on this raw extra dimensional power to then become whatever the spore creates it to.
I'm excited to find out.
Oh yeah. So we'll talk about the known oceans.
Cool.
And then the rainfall, and then we're going to dive into the spores. So there
Don't
are
dive into the spores.
No.
12 oceans, 12 aethers, and 12 spore types. However, we only know a few because we've had one, I think it's about
Short story.
200 pages short story in this fun little world. It's not that full or crazily explored yet, and fair enough. Sometimes I guess he's allowed to, as an author that is known to massively overcook his worlds in the best way possible, I guess sometimes he's allowed to just write a silly little story in a silly little world, you know?
No,
He'll be back.
thou must pray at the
He'll be
Church
back.
of Sanderson that his grace will deign your fictional world once again with
You're so
focus.
right. You're so right. So the seas that we know, there is the Emerald Sea, Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Yeah.
This is made of verdant aether, so it's also known as the verdant sea, and it glows kind of neon green, like this dark neon green.
Ooh,
the spores in
that's
this
cute.
ocean.
That's nice.
Yeah, thus Emerald Sea. Then we have
Makes a lot of
Crimson Sea, made of crimson aether, that has like a hellish red glow to it.
I was gonna guess it's red. It's a glow red.
Then we have the Midnight Sea, made of midnight aether, which just exudes darkness and sucks all that in.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yep. And then we have the Sapphire Sea, made of Zephyr Aether, also known as the Zephyr Sea, which glows this rich blue color. And then the Rose Sea, which is made of Roseite Aether and is a kind of like pinky.
It's like rose.
rosy
It's,
colour.
it's rose gold. It's the new iPhone.
Yes. Of these 5, only the Emerald, Sapphire, and Rose Seas are known to be inhabited by civilizations, empires, and such. People can be found on other oceans. However, supposedly, the dragon and his servants live at the bottom of the Crimson Sea.
Who's the dragon?
What do you fucking mean the bottom of the sea? Also, so this doesn't really have continents, this world. It's a lot of islands.
A lot of islands, yeah.
That makes sense. With all the oceans would be really high with all the spores constantly coming down.
So do you wonder about erosion?
What do you mean?
Well, because while aerated particles act like a liquid, it does not mean that they are a liquid. Liquid is able to have a solid within it that it then carries. I don't know how well the aerated dust would erode, but then again, maybe there's stuff underneath the dust.
Well, that's the point. We know that we know that they decompose on the ocean floor. And them decomposing is also part of what adds to the gases and heat rising.
Are you saying you're not sure if we get longshore drift? Is that what you're saying?
Sure, I don't know what that means.
I imagine we don't, because it's just dust that's liquidy.
Yeah.
We wouldn't.
In my head, I'm imagining Weird Pull, Hunger Games, where the entire continent is just the mountain range of the old continent.
Yeah, I mean,
What's under it? I mean, we have continents that exist underneath.
Yeah, exactly.
The sea. So
What's
similar
our world
to that.
but a landmass with water dropped on parts of
Exactly.
it?
They just got weird, evil spores.
Evil mushroom.
The dragon and his servants live at the bottom of the Crimson Sea. I'm not going to talk about him much.
You
but
need to fucking
I will
tell us who he is.
Throw a little bit in. His name is Zis. And he is a massive red dragon, an intergalactic being, because dragons are... What? Dragons are ancient creatures in Sanderson's cosmos.
What do you fucking mean?
What are you talking about?
They're intergalactic...
This is driving me crazy.
So dragons can just fly through space?
No.
Yes.
But they have access to...
Why'd you say it like it's such a crazy idea that you just said they're ancient beings?
But what they can do is access investiture to move into the spiritual plane, and when they're in the spiritual plane, they can fly between worlds.
Obviously, Matt.
Obviously.
Fuck me.
Because
That's
everyone
where they
knows...
find the Githyanki.
Obviously, when we go in space, they have to go to the fucking spiritual world.
Because obviously, in the spiritual realm, the distance between worlds is shorter. That's why people travel in
And that's where they find the Githyanki.
This isn't
So they
fucking
can
Baldur's Gate. Or D&D.
No.
How does he live at the bottom of the ocean?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
No liquid.
That is the thing that I was actually going to answer.
He's dry.
We discover in the course of the novel that there are cave systems at the bottom of the Crimson Sea.
That's kind of
which
sick,
leads
actually.
us to ask the question of maybe there's cave systems in the other oceans. Who knows? All we know is Zis is a dragon that lives at the bottom of these oceans, and he has servants that...
Would suck.
The rumor is that there's an evil, malevolent dragon at the bottom of the Crimson Sea, and sailors that bring him slaves can get a boon from the dragon. Mm-hmm. That is true, that people can bring him a boon, and it's true that he will take them, and it's true that he'll give them a boon. However, the people that he then takes down are treated really well, and he uses them just to kind of help research, because he's just a curious guy that's like, yo,
He's a little guy.
This is a really weird planet, and I've not seen the Aethers react. This is really unique. The Aethers are everywhere, and they act very differently to this normally. I want to research it. So he has a team of researchers down there, and people get brought to him, and
This is like an immortal dragon, yeah?
Yeah.
You can't just say that they get brought down. How the fuck are they getting through the ocean?
That's a good question.
Well, I don't want to spoil all the secrets of the book.
Island with a hole in it.
Does...
Journey to the center of the earth. Volcano.
Does... I mean, can they leave?
No.
Not once they're brought to him, no.
So they're slaves.
They're under the ocean. They're not slaves. They're there out of choice.
They literally said they weren't.
They get
He said
treated
they were
well.
selling them. He said that people were selling them to the dragon.
They didn't.
And they can't leave.
Don't worry about it. So anyway, we're going to move on.
Yeah, they're treated really well.
They are. Well, it's better than being a slave by the pirates up on the surface.
I guess. Yes, true.
The other inhabitant that we are aware of is in the Midnight Sea. There is a sorceress and her midnight essence creatures.
Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because of course there's an evil sorceress in the Midnight Sea.
Shadow Isles.
This is the most fantasy I've ever seen out of Brandon.
This
so
book is literally
fantasy.
just a cutesy, fun little short story of fantasy tropes.
It'd be really
and
funny
that's
if-
literally the point of it.
It's really funny if Hoyd
Hoyd.
was just making all this fucking shit up.
I mean, that is also a theory in the fandom that Hoyd just makes it up because, when you read Stormlight especially, there's literally like multiple pages of the Stormlight archives that is just Hoyd going on a little rant telling a story just like this one to characters in worlds. So anyway, it can be further assumed that there is a sunlight sea somewhere in the world due to there being sunlight ether, and we hear reference to sunlight spores as well, but we don't actually get confirmation of what color or what that looks like.
I'm guessing sunlight, right?
We're guessing a whitey yellow color, but
Yeah.
we don't.
Well, like
as opposed to the
one's
others
darkness.
that we actively know,
That's
see, or
fair.
hear about. It's one that we don't actually,
That makes sense.
I really don't know page counts. That's very funny. I was like, it's 200 pages. Like, 200 pages seems like a lot. I haven't read a book since year 9. No, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is 300 pages.
Yeah. And that's a short. That's
Not a hard book. No.
Yep.
that thing. You see that big thick one that Jude's currently reading?
That's 1,400, baby.
about that, yeah. Fucking
Guy,
crazy.
this is you. Give us a pirate captain voice. Oh fuck, it's not sending.
Pirate Captain.
Oh,
No, I've got it.
You gave him the pirate captain. That's sick.
Yar, baby.
But she's a misfortune style captain.
Yar, baby. Yes, the spores are dangerous, but they create red spines sharp as a needle. But the real danger is the rain.
I was gonna say the rain seems fucked.
Yep. So we have explained how spores like water, where the planet has wild rainstorms. Maybe something to do with the fact that there's all these fucking moons causing really weird weather patterns. Who knows? So Lumar does have a water cycle. However, it is poorly understood. Hopefully, we'll get a book in the future when Zis the dragon can come back and be like, I finished my research. I know about this world now. But we'll see.
If I was to think about it, right, there is water in the world, like lakes. They evaporate with thing. They go up, come back down. I'm guessing when they hit the spores, the water evaporates immediately, and it goes right back up. So anything water hits the sea would go right back up into the sky, and then anything hits a lake would stay there.
Well, that
right?
is one of the reasons I was
Possibly.
asking. Yeah,
There'd be a lot of rain then.
But we don't know for certain if the water's evaporating on contact or being absorbed into the spore. Is
That makes
two
sense.
different things.
then
We
I
don't
feel like
know.
you'd lose
then
water
there's
over
no
time.
water
then.
left.
Then you'd lose water. Yeah.
Well,
Like I say,
we also
we don't
don't
know.
know what's in the spores. So if they're decomposing at the bottom of the ocean, there may be some sort of like fissure, crack, groundwater system at the bottom of the ocean.
That's what I think that there's water at the bottom personally. But
Nice.
Oh,
and that's just there's no proof or any knowledge of that. That's just what I think would make
Sorry,
sense to
this is just at the bottom of the ocean. Like, yeah, it's pretty loud, Daddy.
me. Yeah, well.
Just a couple fish floating around.
Lumar, so the clouds on Lumar take form of narrow ribbons that weave swiftly along the sky, creating curtains of rain known as rain lines. So rather than big fluffy clouds, they get like strips of cloud. As the water energizes the spores, rain will cause massive manifestations of the aether's elements, making them a massive danger to living beings. However, over most oceans, rain lines are predictable. A ribbon of rain will always follow the same pathway across the ocean, enough so that Lumarians have managed to create rain maps that can accurately predict the path for centuries.
That's great. What? These moons are really fucking up the weather on this planet. I guess they make it with 12. They make it really consistent.
Equidistant maps. Yeah, I mean,
Because the moons don't really move. They sit on where the world. Does the world spin?
I actually don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
it's they say geostationary, so presumably, yeah, it has to spin.
So then, but the moons spin exactly with them because the seas don't
Geostationary.
move.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, the other thing that I'm also not interested about, I don't think, is being considered, depending on what the investitures manifest as, heat and cooling systems, depending if I'm taking a swing here that the red investiture, similar to fire, Maybe.
They
I
create
don't know
red
if that's
spines. You
true or
read
not.
it. They create red
Not
spines.
flat, but
No, okay. Well then, yeah, it depends if the investiture creates hot or cold, because more or less the issue isn't much other than temperature systems
Yeah.
for where the weather is.
well, the complication is they get large parts of the Earth, planet, that the temperature fluctuates because it's sunny and then the moon shadow happens, and then it's sunny and then the moon shadow happens.
But
so
that
you
is
get-
also still really consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a little very...
So that would still be weather, but it'd be very consistent. Yeah, because the reason we have seasons we do, like hot and cold, winter, summer, thing, is because the Earth's on a tilt. So if the Earth wasn't on a tilt,
I guess
then it'd
if,
be really
if everything was
consistent.
consistent around the equator.
exactly.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Anyway, so the water cycle in Lumar is very strange and not fully understood. However, we do know that, as I was saying before, it does have some relation to the decomposition of spores on the seafloor. It is a point of curiosity and research by the dragon. So, who knows? We'll probably get a story set on this world in the future of the Cosmere once they're into the sci-fi age properly, and he'll be like, yeah, this was my hobby, I researched this world, here's all the stuff on it, by the way. So we're going to dive into the types of spores. So like I say, consider that these are small powder-like spores that explode in an effect when water touches them. And then start maybe think about what could happen if you swallowed it, or it got inside your mouth, or inside your nostril, or something. So Zephyr, coming from the Sapphire Sea, when they collide with water, they release a powerful burst of air. They are sapphire blue and appear crystalline in their granular form. It appears to be one of the more harmless types of aether, unless harnessed properly. It's just a little explosion of air.
Oh, that's not bad.
That would still fucking annihilate you if you had some
I mean, you
inside
could survive that.
Depends how many go in, because you got to bear in mind
It depends how deep they go.
they're like dust particles.
Yeah.
So it's very rare that you just
Get
tongue one of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Would they
The air produced by Zephyr.
sweat?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's the air produced by Zephyr aether is breathable. Which implies
Cool.
that it contains oxygen, which may or may not have something to do with ways that it gets used in future, but we'll come back to that.
Oh, that's so
Space
interesting.
suit.
Spacesuit.
Verdant spores. They grow into huge vines after contact with water. The growth rate of expanding verdant aether is extraordinary, being comparable to lightning speed. Breathing in these spores is known to often lead to death, as they react with the saliva and expand, clogging the throat sinuses, or just making vines grow out your fucking head.
Don't
That
eat
makes
them-
sense.
Don't eat
Yep.
pumpkin seeds.
That'd be really cool to see with rain.
Sorry.
Oh, that'd be really cool to see with rain.
Psychopath.
Yeah.
Like walls of
Oh,
vines.
right. Sorry.
It'd be,
Yeah.
it'd be like, no, not with a human. What? I meant like Jack and the Beanstalk style.
That's cool, yeah.
If you create them, because investiture tends to be a spiritual connection, people that practice at it, honestly, anyone, you do see multiple people do this in the setting. If you spread water with intent onto spores to grow these vines, it is shown that people can give really basic commands to vines, such as grab thing or entangle thing. And you can continue to feed them with water to like make the vine keep growing around the thing.
Is it still the lightning speed that you mentioned when it's doing this, or is that just the growth, the appearance?
The initial growth,
Right,
and then you can
gotcha.
kind of keep feeding it water to make it like grow more.
How long do they live?
If you keep feeding it with water, it'll live indefinitely.
Okay.
But if water stops being fed to it, it does die out fairly quickly.
Okay.
That's why rainstorms, it's pretty like constant growth. Then once the rainstorm passes, it like starts to wither away and collapse.
When you're on the ocean, do they fall through the ocean?
The vines,
Yeah.
they fall through, because they're
But
too
unless
thick.
it's not the...
Unless it's the still.
Unless it's the still, in which
Yeah.
case big growth, and the whole thing, that's crazy.
Yep, you do 100% see ships. No, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Crimson. This is the spicy one. We're going to send this one. Matt, this is for you.
Thank you.
Back to Hoyd.
One moment, you're enjoying a nice book, and the next, you take in an unfortunate breath, get a few crimson spores in your system, and suddenly, you turned your skull into a colander. I got a little pirate in me.
I don't know why Hoyd went piratey there,
I got a
but hell
little
yeah.
pirate on me.
You're
He's-
allowed to. You can get
Thank you.
pirate.
I want to get a little
Yep.
piratey.
Crimson Aether takes on the form, when it explodes, of red spines or spears that are sharp as needles and are almost certainly deadly on contact. when they get wet and express their ether, the spines basically just rapidly grow into massive spikes.
So do they grow out or just long ways? And do they grow
Like
both ways?
stars, more like. So just like a big explosion of spikes.
That's terrifying.
Yep. Massive, tiny, razor-sharp needles that just go through most
Sea
things.
urchin.
Yep. Basically. They are on the wrong sea, the bane of ships, often forming impenetrable walls of spines, or simply tearing straight through the ship's hull directly. Inadvertently inhaling crimson spores is just about the most dangerous thing you can do, since it will pierce your head with spines, killing you instantly. Because the green one, maybe if it's just a small enough amount of green spores and it maybe just gets on the edge of your lip, maybe it'll just be a vine that grows off your lip and you can maybe survive it and not die. Because it'll grow off and then fall off.
The puff of air is survivable.
Puff of the red spike right through your skull, no matter how you phrase it.
Yeah, that's not great.
Nope.
Do they keep growing if you keep feeding them water?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Spike.
yeah, big.
Big spike. The other fun thing here, when I said before, the rain is mostly predictable. For reasons we do not quite yet know, the only exception to the predictable rain lines is the Crimson Sea, infamous for its unpredictable weather patterns. Rainfall here comes unexpectedly and follows random paths, which can be particularly dangerous to spore-locked ships, as big pockets of spore spines can and will pierce the hulls, grounding them, or simply tearing them apart. As such, this ocean remains completely uninhabited, with very few vessels surviving the journey across it if they dare it. It also
fair fucking enough.
creates a massive dead zone where just no one goes through. Mostly no one.
That makes sense.
Because where the other oceans, you can't go near the rain lines, but you can chart shipping courses that go around the rain lines and avoid them and know where to travel.
Yeah.
Anyone's fucking guess in the Crimson Sea, because in the other oceans, it doesn't matter if you get spore locked, because you know you're on a safe path. You'll just have to wait maybe an extra day of travel. It's not the end of the world. The Crimson Sea, yes, you can watch with your eyes and avoid the rain clouds because they're pretty easy to spot in the distance because you see these massive explosions as well as the clouds. If you get spore locked and one starts coming towards you,
Cooked.
yep,
Cooked.
literally.
So vine, I presume, is made of the term vine evokes like plant matter esque. What are the crystals like? What are the spines made out of?
More corally spikes is what we've been told.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Calcium almost. Okay,
Yeah.
no, because I'm just thinking. Listen, utilitarian enemies just trying to figure out what the function of each of these are. Can I go to the Crimson Sea and like make a material that's useful for something?
I mean, probably, yeah.
Does it like, I guess when the sea goes back to not being still, they fall through?
Yeah.
It's like, I was gonna ask, do these like dematerialate, but I guess they just fall through the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but also you'd imagine.
Which is also really bad if you've got a ship that, say, gets spore locked and spiked through with red spikes, and then more spores fall into your ship. You're not buoyant anymore, probably, so when it fluidizes again, you just fall down through the spikes.
Damn.
I'd imagine there'd also be like clusters near a shore or something like that because of the predictable rain and the fact that therefore it's probably repeating it, the pattern. It would have
Island. That's why no one lives on the islands here, because they fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll keep trucking on.
Yeah.
Sunlight. We won't talk lots about this one because it's a pretty minor one, but sunlight aether produces light and heat when watered.
Nice.
It's just a little...
Heat sounds scary. I'm like,
Yep.
Flashbang!
It's literally flashbacks.
And then the last one, midnight. Midnight aether spores create midnight essence, draining hydration from the sprouter, so whoever is like actively growing it.
Oh, okay.
The sky? With the rain?
Well, that's if someone's watering it. If someone's trying, they use their like intent to try and water it.
Okay. Is it like
Yes.
homing or?
Well, we're getting to that.
Sorry.
Through a potential spiritual bond after initial contact with water. So Midnight Essence is very different to the others. Midnight Essence is something that you will see in other Cosmere novels, but it's fine. That doesn't matter for the purposes of this episode. It is a black, viscous, bubbling liquid that imitates any nearby creature that it sees. It normally involves some level of corruption to investiture. All Midnight Essence created inhibits some form of mind, and Midnight Essence may be an example of highly concentrated investiture granting sentience. We've seen in previous episodes really highly invested swords and like special blades and stuff that have become so highly invested they develop a personality and sentience. That's kind of what these Midnight Essence creatures are like on low levels. It can be controlled, depending how it's created, in a similar way to, if you remember back to our Stormlight episode, we had the Knights Radiant who created bonds with Spren and different creatures. Very similar mental bond to that, giving the bonder the ability to manipulate the essence's movement and actions, and, if enough control is exerted, dissipate the Midnight Essence at will. So, while this doesn't do too much for the rain passing over the Midnight Sea, it means that someone actively watering Midnight Essence can bring it into creation and create a little servant. This little servant, while it's alive, will continue to drain water from you through this spiritual bond. So if you create one, you're going to get real dry real quick unless you keep chugging water. But for the time, you have a little guy that you can control.
It's kind of similar a little bit to the nothing from fucking Keys to the Kingdom.
Yeah, very similar, very similar. Feeding the bond more water increases the control the human has over it. Therefore, under the right circumstances, a person can break through another person's bond by offering more Midnight Essence and more water than the current host.
Dude, I'm so hydrated.
Yep. Get more hydrated,
Listen
you
to me,
can maybe
baby.
break
I'm
control
so
of someone.
hydrated.
I'm fascinated by what you mean by the right circumstance. I'm just imagining like Water Bane. Like Batman Bane?
Oh,
like a
yeah.
water tank?
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
yeah. Some of the more advanced people in the Aethers that we see in, not in this book, but in different novels where it's like an Aether-bound person on a different planet, they literally have an entire tank of water on his back with a straw going to his mouth.
Yeah, perfect.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good.
They're actually in one of the Mistborn novels, but you aren't up to that yet.
You're not advanced enough for this.
ready for that yet.
You'll read it soon.
You're not read that, but your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah. The summoned essence responds to the bonder's intention and thus can be controlled or bonded without visible or audible communication. As opposed to the other essences as well, Midnight Essence is highly resistant to silver while it is alive.
Yeah.
So while it's a creature that's draining your water, it can be alive and do things. The final one, I lied, there was one other one after Midnight, I forgot. Rosite. Rosite Aether spores produce crystals when they interact with water. Although the spores can be deadly, they are not as dangerous as Crimson or Midnight spores, and the Rose Sea is technically inhabited. Among the Aethers, Rosite is particularly good in its spore form. It is the only one that is resistant to silver while a spore, because Midnight Essence kind of doesn't count, because it's a living creature when it's created.
What if you put Midnight Essence in your mouth?
I
I feel like you can just chuck it out. You can throw it out. Right?
Yeah.
It's not too dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to keep it in your mouth, it'll be weird, I guess, but you'll probably, you'll be able to spit it out. You'll be
Yeah,
able
it's
to die.
probably one
Not
of
as
the
bad as the
less
red one.
dangerous ones.
Yeah, exactly.
To eat, if you want to eat some.
Yeah.
Gee.
So,
Gooey.
how are they used? Is the last thing we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
So the quick thing to shoot out here is the role of a sprouter. Sprouter is an important part of every ship that sails the spore seas. They study the creation, growth, and manipulation of spores to cover all bases aboard the ship. They can use rosite crystals, as things that create with these are incredibly hard and easy, quite predictable and easy to control when placing and watering them, which means they're really helpful for sprouters to patch up holes in the ship. If your ship gets a hole blasted in it by a cannon from another ship, you can run down to where the spores are leaking in, and if you get out your rosite spores from your little pouch, slap them over and kind of water them as you go, you can create a big crystalline blockage to seal up the hole.
And not water the other spores that are coming in?
Better be careful, huh?
Yeah.
How
God damn.
Well, I got a couple questions. How tough are the crystals? Would a crimson spike go through one of the crystals?
Depends and depends.
Okay. Other question. Why wouldn't you just get a water gun off the side of the ship instead of a cannon and just strap the water next to the ship and then have it explode?
What do you think's inside the cannonballs they're shooting?
Oh, they have water in the cannonballs? That's sick.
What a fun!
Literally just a water. It's just a water balloon.
We'll get to Zephyr in a moment, the one that explodes.
That's so
So that's rosite. Sunlight, spores are used to create signal flares as well as power ovens.
Oh, great.
Yep.
ovens.
Yep.
Cute.
Crimson, come on guys, it explodes in spikes. If I need to explain the uses for this, then what are we doing here?
Humans are good at one thing, and that's
Big
killing
weapon.
other humans.
Damn right.
Weapons.
Verdant, if the vines are fully grown, obviously this is pretty straightforward in the sense of it can be used to grab things, tangle people. If you can control it well, you can make vines grow off your hands and grab someone with it. You know, there's things like that you can do, pretty straightforward. But a little extra thing.
Eat it.
Are you reading my script or?
No.
Oh, okay, because that's what I'm like literally in the process of saying now. If the vines are fully grown, they can be eaten if soaked for a day. They don't provide many calories or nutrients, and people can only survive off of them alone for a few weeks. So they're not like a permanent food source, but
like
if
kelp.
you're on the ocean and it's all you got,
More than the
it'll keep
2 to
you
3
alive.
weeks you'd last normally.
Exactly.
That was honestly my first thing. Can I eat it?
Yep. That brings us to Zephyr, which is kind of the one that ties them all together. Zephyr spores are used for a variety of purposes in Lumar. Mainly, it seems to be a replacement for gunpowder. It is used in cannons to launch the cannonballs. So they have like,
Water
rather than
fuse.
inputting, literally a water fuse, they'll have like water that goes in and then it reacts with the Zephyr and poof, big explosion.
Water cannon for a water cannonball.
Yep.
That's Brandon, you cooked again.
When these cannons are fired, it releases blue puffs of spores, which is a cute little thing, and would look so pretty if this ever got animated, this book. But anyway, they are also used inside the cannonballs with water fuses inside the balls, which are sealed with wax. So then when they hit the seal breaks, water is released inside the cannonball, which hits more Zephyr spores and creates a big explosion.
Like a multi-chamber thing with the... Oh, that's great. Yes, spores in one, water in the other.
Yep.
How common is water in this world? Like, is it hard to get? Do they ever run out of water?
I mean, they run out of water about as much as you'd expect them to run out of water for boats doing long cruises across the ocean.
Okay, so it's not as. I was just thinking. I guess
It's not like a Mad Max level water is running out.
Yes.
If you're on an island, you can find some water.
Yeah, I imagine that we'll probably... I mean, if he ever does another short story or a full novel in this world, I guess we'll maybe get something explaining that more. But as far as we're seeing, he's already doing a swashbuckly pirate story, so water's already kind of scarce because you're on an ocean, so...
Also, there's not a lot of continents, so there's not a lot of areas for water to go. To like collect, right? And I imagine some islands are just desert islands because the water because the rain would never go there.
Yeah.
But I guess other islands would be so consistent in rain that you just have big tubs and you always fill it up and always ready for it because you know exactly when it's going to happen. So I guess that'll counterbalance itself.
Yeah. And then you have people whose job is to live on the island during a rainstorm, collect
sell the water.
and then after the rainstorm's gone and the vines die, they go back to the civilized islands, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the really interesting thing that you can also do with Zephyr spores, just because it's... So you've got the cannonball, which inside the cannonball is more water and more Zephyr to mix and explode. What if you put other types of spores mixed in with the Zephyr and the water? Another canister. So it's cannonball, water, Zephyr. What if you also put, say, crimson spores in there? So it not only explodes in a massive explosion of cannonball, but it also explodes in spikes everywhere.
Yep.
Or the favourite one that they do as well is exploding in vines. But the other thing as well, the fighting styles of the books in this is less about hitting the ships and more about hitting the spores that the ships are travelling on.
Yes.
A lot of the pirate combat we see is in the Verdant Sea, and what you're trying to do is shoot the green spores underneath them because then they will explode and entangle the boat.
Makes sense.
And it's brutal as fuck to have a boat get wrapped up with all these vines, and then they just sink because the vines are now heavy enough to sink beneath the seethe, and the boat's just dragged down.
If I shoot a cannon, then I think about the cannon exploding. Can I then control the vines? Is that too indirect?
The intent comes from it enwrapping the ship, because that's the loose intent you're trying to do.
Yeah, so you are, but it is your intent.
Yeah.
And if I'm on the ship, can I go, if I see the cannonball coming, I'm like, don't wrap my ship.
In theory, possibly.
interesting.
We don't know a lot about how the spiritual bond works in this world.
That's fair.
You have a
Because
strong
a lot of
will.
people, it's just like an accidental thing rather than a deliberate thing.
I feel like this is very much like a whoever shoots first gets the first shot off kind of wins.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's kind of like in our world. Once we knew how to build ships pretty well, we could take a couple cannonballs.
Yep.
But now this is like one ship, one cannonball, you're gone. Bye bye. Bottom of the
It's
ocean.
literally a couple of shots to get our trajectory and targeting right. So usually you'll see them do one shot that goes way too far, one shot that goes way too short, and then the third shot will be all right, we zeroed in on them now.
That's crazy.
I shoot my cannonball and it lands next to you on the deck, and you feel a little thirsty.
I guess the deck would be like one of the worst places to hit.
Midnight creature.
Midnight creature. Yeah.
I guess the deck would be one of the worst places to hit.
Yep.
You want to hit the sea right next to them.
Yeah, I mean, it is still the amount of zephyr they put in these cannonballs. It's still a decent explosion.
Yeah.
So, like, it can damage the wood, it can damage the hull, it can still blast a hole in the hull.
Yeah,
blast a hole in the hull.
I'm firing,
the hole?
I'm firing crimson spores at my guy, the captain.
That's so true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Giant
explosion
spike
of crim-
explosion.
Yeah,
Or
literally.
Flashbang cannonball.
I also that's true. I also imagine if you put a big enough spike on a ship, it might struggle to float.
Yep, exactly. There's so many things you can do with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is the little setting of Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Delightful.
Had really good timing. Look at that, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Good on you. It's sorry, that wasn't meant to be condescending at all. I didn't mean
It was so condescending,
I'm
man.
real-
Fuck you.
He's got his arms crossed. It's
Yep.
hitting the end of the day, and he's on 5 hours of sleep.
I did not mean that.
No, it's all
Condescending,
good.
dude.
It's all
that was
good.
a really good episode.
Hey, it would have been an hour. You guys just give me a hard time when I'm trying to present.
It was really good.
We love riffing because we gotta go on tangents. We gotta ask the questions because you keep bringing these excellent Branderson, Sanderson,
I got questions.
Banderson, Wanderson worlds
When
to
you
us.
bring us a new science,
And if
we
you
have
want to
questions.
hear some more Sanderson worlds, then go check out Mistborn and what's the most recent one we did? Oh God,
We
would have
did-
been the Doors. A DOR.
We did. Mistborn was one of the more recent ones.
we went back.
Second-
We went back to Mistborn.
Right, we did. Yes.
And then before that, it would have been Elantris and Warbreaker and stuff like that.
So many to go through.
Yeah.
Supple, verdant grounds, some would say.
Yes. And thank you to the sponsors of our Patreon that keep the lights on in this building. Totally.
Verdant lawkeepers.
They do. They keep us honest. They keep us working. They keep us hard. Working.
They bully me for not having played Elden Ring.
That's so true. So based of them. And you can bully Guy too if you get on our Discord, but which you can join today. But thank you to our Patreon members, Bong the Bard, Josh Romaine, and Shadow, Prestige Lawkeepers. Thank you to our novice lawkeepers, Blitz Bandit, Dan Dark, Jacob from Norway, Josh number 2, loading name, Luke Newcomb, The Recluse, Tiani Wilson, and Uranian Games. Thank you, all of you. You are amazing, and you can
Bloody
join them
legends.
too for extra content and keep us doing what you do, and also requests if you have a high enough tier. But yes, that was amazing, Jude. And
Michael?
unless you have anything else to add.
No.
If you rate us 5 stars, well, the number of stars you rate us is the number of seas you can sail right across like a confident, badass pirate in this world. And you can tell your friends.
Yeah. The number of stars you rate us is the number of liters of water that someone else is going to go get for you every day.
That's pretty good.
It's a good deal. Don't want to go and get that water yourself. That's dangerous. I stay inside, baby. That wind is going to carry some crimson spores to me. I'm going to explode.
The number of stars you give us is the number of spore types you have mastery over.
Oh, a bit of mastery.
Damn. That's pretty fucking good.
But
if, as you sail in your ship across the seas, marking your territory and the waves as they come, you can see the sun set on all the 12 moons rise, and say, good night.
No, you fucker. And you can rudely, as the morning dawns, fire your sneaky little crimson cannonballs at the unsuspecting ship as you yell from your merry post, good morning.
And sorry, I was just registering the voice you put on for that. Good
Hey,
morning.
gotta get some gusto
threw me
in
back.
there.
And as the vines wrap around your ship and drag you down into what will surely be your horrible end, as vines grow through every carapace of your body, as the vines and spores fill your orifices, say, sayonara world.
Sayonara, abandoned Sanderson.
Sayonara Tress? Is that the world? Is that the world name of the world?
Lumar.
Lumar. What a world.
What a world.
Yeah.
I never did like mushrooms.
What sea would you pick to live on, Jude?
Probably the verdant, because it's the friendliest, I think.
No, I like the quartz one. I like a little, I've got a little cottage with like little flowers and stuff, and a little cherry blossom and a pink. I love the aesthetic.
That would be it would be really cute. It's just also a bit more dangerous, I feel.
I'm gonna come to your house and fire a cannonball through your window.
Okay. my vines will protect me.
No.
No.
This is rock paper scissors.
You're wrong. I'm picking the Sunlight Sea, baby.
Yeah.
Enjoy being blind, idiot.
Yeah. Already am.
Thank you for listening to Living by the Law. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave a review, tell your friends, and if you're feeling extra generous, become an official lawkeeper by joining our Patreon today. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Living by the Law. All links are in the description, and thank you in advance. We have been, and always will be, living by the law. Thank you for your company, and good night.